All right, Josh Smith here, live at my Flat 5 studios. My guest today is man, one of my favorite people. I consider him a brother. Been a huge inspiration on me a lot of my life in ways that I don't know that we've talked about it a little bit, but man, I had his picture on my wall as a kid because he was proof positive that it was possible to do what we do at a young age. And yeah, you get a little bit of talk about, oh, he's a kid, whatever, but to do it as a professional, it was a major inspiration to know that was possible. He's one of the best guitar players on the planet and one of the best people I know, and it's a pleasure to have him. Please, everybody, welcome Eric Gales.
Hey, man. I ain't been doing a whole lot of these, but there's a select few people, and I consider you in that bunch, man. And I'm very, very thankful and just happy to be alive to be here to do it with you, man. I guess that applies to us both, and I'm very humbled. And I saw. I want to start this out by saying this. I want to say first off, fuck you. And the reason I'm saying that is because I saw you, and I think you were playing that guitar, and it sounded like you were going through a fuzz, and it was a commercial for some uh, class thing that you were doing, and it was a riff you were doing, and it lasted about 2 minutes long, the whole riff. And dude, you was playing your ass off, man. And it's something that you're doing tomorrow for an hour or 2 hours.
Okay, yeah, for Together. It's this new service
Again,
that a friend of mine
dude,
launched.
dude,
Yeah.
dude, the commercial that you made for that thing, I said, God, see, I need to learn that riff. So for that, I think I'm gonna get a poster of you to put on my wall so I can throw darts at it. I'm like, God damn.
Man, man, I know it sounds silly, but it really is the truth. When I first heard about you, it was and Joe is included in there, and and I knew Derek Trucks back then. We grew up together. It was a group of
Mhm.
guys kind of close to our age who started to show me, it was possible to be treated like a professional, and it wasn't completely out
Absolutely.
of out of bounds to think you could do that from a young age. But you were the first that I saw because I mean, you got a record deal and you were in all the guitar magazines. So I've been starting all these interviews, asking everybody, about their beginnings. And obviously, we know a lot about you and your brothers and your family, and there's a lot of music in your family. But do you remember the specific first time you even picked up a guitar? Like who put it in
I
your
do.
hand? Oh, yeah,
I
okay, so
do.
what was it?
And
How did it happen?
the crazy part was it was not put in my hands. I picked it up on my own. Now, mind you, a lot of guitar was being played around my home way
Yeah,
before I came out.
yeah,
So subconsciously, it was there whether I wanted it to be or not.
yeah.
And just out of sheer curiosity, because drums was my first love. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So my brother was playing, fog hat and blue cheer and all that stuff around the
Yeah,
house, and I'd just be miming along with knives and forks, you know, drumming away. You know what I'm saying, on the floor.
yeah.
And one day, 4 years old, the guitar was laying up against the couch,
Mhm.
and I picked it up. I had no, didn't even, dude. I wasn't even. It didn't even make sense to even think about which way that I was either supposed to hold a guitar or that
Right.
I had been seeing the guitar held in my 2 or 3 feet perimeter. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So, what way I picked it up was like this, and immediately played something. And I still know what it is that I played the very first time. I never will forget what I played the very first time. And
Mhm.
it was the hand coordination was I had no problem, no trouble, no nothing. It just, and I said to myself, man, I kind of like this thing. And it was off to the races. That's how it happened. So it could have subconsciously been, stamped in there that I saw my brothers playing that way, and I
Sure.
want to lean toward that being a possibility. But it was never placed into my hands. I picked it up on my own, and it
Yeah.
was left-handed upside down, and there it was.
So obviously they play that way. You're four at that point. You said you were into drums. Had you ever sat at a real drum kit back then?
Well, my brother Eugene and Hubert and Selton Cole they had a band way before I was born called Weird, and they were a power trio, and my brother Eugene was the lead,
Yeah.
and so times there would be where after a gig or so, like they would unload Hubert's drums would be at my mom's house. And I would be so excited when I went in there and saw the drum set stacked up tall and everything, So, I want to say that I did maybe get behind the kid once or twice, but not nothing, more of my upbringing on drums began just on the floor with knives and forks,
Yeah.
and pots and
Yeah.
pans and books and stuff.
But that was probably right-handed, because I know you write right-handed, right? And you say you were just shooting
Absolutely.
basketball. Do you shoot right-handed?
Everything else beside the guitar, I do right-handed.
Yeah, yeah. So that's, I mean, obviously it had to be some osmosis there from seeing your brothers play it that way. Are they left-handed, or are they also right-handed like you with everything else?
Now Eugene is just like me. He right-handed and play left-handed. Little Jimmy King he wrote left-handed everything. Shot ball left-handed, straight up left-handed.
Interesting. Wow.
Very
I didn't know that.
Very interesting. Yeah, man.
Okay, so you have that inspirational moment of like you can figure stuff out. We all know that feeling when you pick up the guitar and like Matt, it is kind of magical. Like like lightning hits you and you feel like shit. This is. Do you start asking your brothers to show you stuff then at that point, or they automatically start showing you stuff?
Honestly, I was afraid to ask them because my brother Eugene was a 2-time Golden Glove boxing champion. So, I'm 10 years younger than the next to me older brothers, which were the twins. And, I was afraid. So my brother just had this intimidating factor about him, that I didn't bother him about nothing, and it got to a point where I had to sneak and, pick the guitar up when he left. And I got into the story. One time I broke a string, and this is how it happened. One time they had left, I broke a string, and I was scared. I think I peed myself a little bit because I thought my brother was going to get me because I broke the string when he came home and he came in there and said, "Did you do this?" And I said, "Yeah, man." And then he said, "Okay, let me put one back on it." And that's how it, he saw that I was pretty, because he was already mentoring and coaching little Jimmy King, my brother Manny. Yeah. And, but Manuel got to a point to where he got the big head a little bit. So my brother backed off from him, and said, okay, and then I started coming along and then he started coaching me. And that's how it happened. And then that came around about, I would say, 7, 8 years old by that time.
Yeah. And it had to be kind of infectious to be surrounded by everybody's learning new stuff. So Eugene's like a pro at that point. And little Jimmy King, Manuel, he's working on it. And like you said, and you're behind him working on it. I'm sure you were always like hoping for that glance of approval when you figured something out. Like,
I did a bunch of times. And I would really get them when it began to be a point that I would get challenged by my brother to learn a song. And if I learned it by the next day, there was a burger spot called Big Dip Dairy that had burgers this big, dude. And as a kid, they looked like they was big as fucking rims on a car. And they had it was a lot of burger, and Big Dip Dairy they had ice cream. So he would tell me, if you learn, he would give me Overall Junction by Albert King or Laundromat Blues, Texas Flood or something. And every other day it would be something, and I'd be damned by the next day. I would be like, "Bro, this is it right here, right?" And he said, "Man, let's go. You got it." So he'd have to take me to go get, to me, was a big ass burger. And and those were that was the highlight. I mean, that's what I lived for, is my brother to give me something. Then he started giving me like difficult stuff, like Hendrix stuff. Like he passed on to me stuff that he wasn't quite sure what it was, and I done sat there and picked it out, you know what I mean? And he was like, "Yo, man, we go to the music store, and you go in the music store and you hear somebody picking, it turned everybody's head around in the music store, like, yo." And then it would immediately cause 10, 15, 20 people to be gathering around me, and I'm 8, 9 years old. And he would purposely take me in the music store for that reaction.
Yeah.
And that's what happened, and it started going crazy. And he was like, "Man, my little brother, man, god damn." So that's how it came about.
How did Eugene initially learn? How, what's his I don't know, like his level of knowledge as far as music goes. Like, did he take lessons or was he self-taught? What's his
No,
background?
he was basically self-taught, but he had very good illustrations from my uncles. I got uncles, cousins, nephews, everything, aunties, and everything that play. I got an uncle that was a man. Had he chose to go in the world, he would be right there with BB and Albert and all and Freddie and all of them. But he just chose to stay, in the church. You
Mm,
know what I mean? And he was
sure.
left-handed.
Oh, wow.
Dude, I'm trying to. So my brother had serious things to have him wind up in the music because my mom's was the only woman of 6 brothers, and they had a gospel group. So that's, my brother being the oldest, it was just him for a good while. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he would be around all this good listening gospel and listening to my uncle and my cousin that plays lap steel. That's who my brother had to listen to. And then he got turned on to Hendrix and met some guys in school, Hubert and Selton, and they were into rock and, good old blues and everything. And so that's how his repertoire began to,
Interesting.
get more in that.
Did you have any friends your age that were musicians, or was it all your brothers in his circle?
Man, it was all my brothers in that circle. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And which, to be honest with you, I ain't mad at it that it wound up being that.
Yeah. 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 Well, I mean,
It just worked out.
for us at that age, I mean, you're just a couple years older than me. The music that was popular, if you had friends who played, they weren't going to be into what your brother was into musically. You
Not
know
at
what I
all.
mean? So we
Right.
wouldn't have fit. I
Right.
couldn't fit in with anybody who went to school who played guitar. I couldn't speak the language they
Right.
they spoke. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah, I agree.
crazy. So when was the first time you started to get to play with other musicians?
It was 14, 13, Battle of the Bands with original, which I was in that band, which was part of Eugene's them group called Weird at the time, you
Mm,
know, and I came on actually playing bass, as a youngin', and then my brother was like, "Bro, you know what? I'll play bass and you play guitar, cause
yeah.
this shit is fucking badass." And you know what I'm saying? You
Mm,
know, so it was with my brothers that straight up woodshedding, showing off, getting it. You know what I mean? Type of picking was going on, and it was with them. And then so after that, the record deal came at
yeah.
15 and all that stuff.
Did you have any chance to do any like run of the mill, 4 hour blues gigs back then? With any other
Never,
cats? Like never.
never, never.
See, that's crazy because you kind of you fell into like a self-made situation. You know what I mean?
Kind of.
Yeah,
I like how you put it. Yeah, yeah. No, it
yeah.
never was. No, not at all,
Interesting.
man. If anything, I was, as the years went on, I started getting more involved in the hip hop and 3 6 Mafia and
Yeah,
rapping and all that sort of stuff, which wind up fusing into this pot of gumbo that I like to call it. But no, I never had a 3 4 hour gig type.
yeah,
It was I
yeah.
went from school straight to the road. You know what I mean? Supporting the record. You know what I mean?
And was Eugene doing any kind of like gigs like that? Like just make it, $75 gigs, or was it all just his own
Not at
band? And
not yeah. Prior to the deal, yeah, and some after the deal. Some
okay,
2 3 sets a night type of thing. With other
yeah,
blues rock bands at
yeah,
BB's or something.
yeah,
The local tavern or something like that. But it never was something that I did until way later in life.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. Okay. So obviously you progress at a super rapid age. I mean pace at a young age, and you end up in this spot where you start to play gigs and people pay attention. And of course, we know part of it is the fascination of, oh my God, look at this young kid. playing, and then of course it's wow. Listen how good he is. Do you, I mean, it had to be just to you. It must have felt kind of surreal, but almost kind of like overnight that this was like a job. You know, 'cause you're going to school. You got all the normal
Right.
life stuff that we deal with as a kid, and next thing you know, you put money in your pocket. You can go buy a new guitar. People care about what you're doing. I remember that feeling was crazy. It had to be even crazier for you to quickly end up, on a major label and things like that.
Right. It was, man. I mean, exactly. I couldn't have explained it any better than what you just did. That's exactly how it would wind up happening. Because when I was in school, I tried to keep it very quiet that I was a guitar player
Yeah.
because I was, in seventh grade, I got in the marching band and found out, but I was in there for drums. It had nothing to do with that's where I actually learned how to not read like you. I mean, of course, but read uh, drum sheet music. You know what I mean? Like
Sure. Okay.
sight reading. I got straight ones and first place and all West and all state and all that
Mhm.
stuff. And
Yeah.
I was in the jazz band, but I was a drummer. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
I was a leader of a 15-man percussion section, and it was like that was where I was at. You know what I mean? But then this deal came in, and I'm like, here we go. You know what I mean? Like, okay, this what it is. I tour on the weekends and be back at school in the marching band from
Yeah.
four to from after we got out of school about 5 o'clock, head to Arden Studios, record the record, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? With
Yeah.
Jim Gaines and
Yeah.
and and got Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jimmy Vaughan from recording Family Style next
Yeah.
door. I got Artemis Pyle and Tom Dowd poking their heads in and John Hampton and Paul Eversole and ZZ
Yeah.
Top and I'm like, yo, man, this is crazy.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
insane.
I
But
I can
I was soaking it all in, man, and I had a wonderful upbringing. I ain't gonna lie.
I can
When you think
imagine.
about the whole when you think about the whole gamut of people that my brother started letting me listen to at a young age, I began to meet these people.
Mhm.
Within a couple of years, after a few years after being turned on to them, and I'm like, and then the crazy part was they knew who I was, and I'm like, yo, are you kidding me? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
still 17, 18, 16, 15. In my mind, that's still a kid. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
In the
Yeah.
grand scheme of the forefathers of blues rock and picking and gigging world, you know what I'm saying? I'm still a kid.
Mhm.
And it was just mind blowing, man. And then the
Yeah.
Eric Johnsons and meeting Stevie Ray and all that come about, and Frank Marinos and touring
Yeah.
with Robin Trower and getting to letting me play Bridge of Sighs in my show, opening up for him and him standing on the side watching. Dude, like, bro, come on, man. Come on, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's had to be very surreal. What did your parents think initially when the deal came and gigs started happening on the weekends and you're working? What was their opinion?
My parents were immediately supportive because my mother was not so worried because my older brother, I was out with him. So that was my mentor. He wasn't going to let nothing happen to me. You know what I mean?
Mm,
So she
yeah.
never was. She's always been. And this is coming from a woman that is from the church of like strict. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So she began bending, and carving out a path of her own, with having a pretty high seat as a district missionary in the Kojic denomination to having
Uh-huh.
these kids that are playing in the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's pretty that's pretty opposite ends of the field, but that
Sure.
yet and still in her mind, these are my sons, and I love them. And I just pray that they come on back in the fold before it's too late.
Yeah.
So that would be, I mean, that was the usual. You know what I'm saying? And if
Sure.
you were covered by your parents' prayer, then that was the right hand of the Pope right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I had to kind of almost barter with my parents to let me go play gigs and stuff like that. I had to hold up my end, with the school and the,
Right, right,
not letting things go to my head, being still,
right,
being like a kid and a good responsible kid. And it was,
right,
I'm sure they were scared because just like you, they had to know from immediately, that was it. You were never going to do anything else. You were hooked.
Yeah,
So it is,
yeah.
it's a tough life as a musician to make it
It's
and
tough.
make a living and sustain it.
Right,
But yeah, they were still
right.
incredibly supportive. It's amazing
Yeah,
looking back on it. Yeah.
yeah. I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful for both my parents. God rest both of their souls. And
Yeah.
and I believe that they're looking down, quite proud, and my other brothers, and all those that has been close to me that's passed on. And all I can
Yeah.
do is just try to keep forward and keep being the best me that I can be and make them proud.
Yeah. My grandparents were not as supportive. They wanted me to go to college. Yeah.
Yeah, you might get over on your parents, but your grandparents they ain't going.
No, no. They expected a doctor or a lawyer or something like that. You know what I mean?
Right, right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So,
But it just wasn't
sorry.
in the cards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just wasn't in the
just wasn't
car.
in the cards.
Oh man. So okay, when the gigs start, becoming serious and the record comes out and you like you said, you're meeting your heroes, you're getting all this attention, you get in the guitar magazines. Can you kind of even tell how special it is as it's going on, or are you just kind of in the flow?
I'm in the flow. It's a little bit of both. Like I'm saying to myself, yo, man, this is insane. But at the same time, I'm in the flow. So if there's a way for it to be both, then I would say it was both. I was in the flow, trying to still keep my cool, but at the same time, behind closed doors saying, God damn it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yo, this is unreal. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's unreal.
And then do the kids at school, you tried to keep it secret, but then when you do something like Arsenio Hall or something like that, they
Yeah,
had to know.
it was over. It was
Yeah.
over. I went back to school and everybody it was like, yo, dude, why the hell you ain't said nothing? And
Yeah.
then when Carlos did the interview and he said, man, it was just all she wrote. It was it.
Yeah.
So the cat was out the bag. The principal wanted autographs. My school teachers let me show up late and everything. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that's crazy, man. How you get that kind of favoritism, you know. But
It's funny that you say that. Like I had teachers who would let me skip class and hang out in like their office, the music teachers and stuff, and use the
oh
phone,
yeah,
like things like that you would
everything.
think would be completely ridiculous. Yeah.
It was crazy. It was
Yeah.
insane. It was
That's
insane.
funny.
So,
Yeah.
even like you say, the music teachers were asking me my advice on a concert piece that was, I'm like, yo, man, and like Eric, what do you think? How does this sound? Does this sound like I'm like, yo, like this is out of control right now. You know what I'm saying? This is like way out of control. But at the same time, I still tried to, stay humble. I pride myself on trying to be as humble, and never have my head where I can, never see in front of my car. I don't want to only see out the sunroof. I want to be able to see in front of me. I don't want to,
Yeah.
come across, braggadocious or big headed. Though people have told me if I chose to be a shit talker, I could back it up, but I just don't, if I wanted to talk shit like Muhammad Ali, I could. But I ain't gonna do it, man. Because for the simple fact, it's motherfuckers that's named Josh Smith that'll cut a motherfucker head clean off.
Well,
Oh, man.
well, man, one thing I noticed when listening, because of course I bought the record, so I bought EGB first album and then Picture of a Thousand Faces. What was
Mhm.
striking to me was the growth in your playing between the two albums. You know what I mean? Yes, the writing too changed, but I was hearing like the work you were putting in. Was it tough though to get because that's a period where most people are being, are just working on their own in a closed environment. You were working for
Right, right.
real and still like
Yeah.
having to push yourself to learn new stuff. Where'd you kind of find the time?
Man, I'm gonna tell you something. I think that honestly, I'm gonna go on the limb and say this. I think that when I was born, there were some things that came with me when my whole family gene. I think it's some things that came in my bloodline, that was already there. And it was stuff that was coming to me that should have been coming to a 40, 50-year-old person.
Yeah,
I mean, like emotions and feelings and
sure.
stuff that is what I highly use to channel the way that I play. And
Yeah,
with that being said, that stuff, it could have been, I believe strongly that it could have been, emotions and vibes of, potential oppression, you know what I mean? Potential, vibes of, pain and
Hmm.
struggle and, overcoming and victory and perseverance that had come along with this gift. I believe
Sure.
truly that it did, because the same emotions that I have now, I would have when I was young. And I wouldn't be no more than 6, 7, 8 years old. I ain't been through nothing to
Sure.
have those kind of emotions. So I believe some extra oil got poured in, on this, and that's not me bragging about it. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
How else can I see these kids that are these virtuosos, and the virtuoso caliber now, and it's like virtuoso 7.9.
I know.
Compared to back then, yeah, it was a high caliber, but like these folks is something crazy. I mean, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous, dude. It's ridiculous. And I
Yeah.
believe honestly in my heart that there are some things that they've been gifted with way before their time,
Mm.
that has come along with them, because there is a skill set can be a skill set, but man, I'm telling you, there is a level of emotion and passion that goes into that you can tell that's there, that's set apart just from regular skill. You know what
Sure.
I mean?
Yeah.
Would you not agree with that?
I do. So this is an interesting topic to me and something I've wondered about. We all know guys who, when you hear them play, there's something there that just know this guy was born with something special. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
feel that way when I listen to you play 100%. But the other half of me, the practical side of me, also knows from listening to you for as long as I have. Yes, you are special. You were born with something special. But I also hear the 10,000 hours that I know you've put in to working on playing guitar.
Absolutely.
So I can
Absolutely.
hear the work too. Do I think maybe
Yes,
I
sir.
was born with a gift or something? I don't know about that. Maybe I was born at least knowing that this was what I was supposed to do. Maybe. But
Uh-huh.
I tend to think of it as like a balance between the two things.
It is. It is. It is. I 100% agree with you on that. It's man, I'm about to say something, and I don't know if I really wanted you to put it on there, but it may be. I could be a perfect example of a balance, a perfect mix of fucking passion, emotion, and feel, and 50,000 hours of man hours
Yeah.
put into honing in on wood shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say I'm the poster boy for it, but I'm a byproduct of it. Put it like that.
Sure. Sure.
Is that a
Yeah, I
good way to
mean,
put it?
yeah, that's I mean, more than anything, that's what I hear when I hear you. I hear the gift and the heart and the soul, and also the hard work, because I know what it
Yes, sir.
takes. You don't just wake up and do what you do or know the things you know. You know what I mean? It doesn't happen. Yeah. Well, I know because I've put in the work. I've done the hours too. I
Yes,
know
sir.
how hard it is,
Yes, sir.
and what it
Absolutely,
takes to
man.
do
Yeah,
those
man.
things. And yeah, it is. It's amazing the balance between that. I mean, I know a guy here, an organ player. We all know some of these guys, organ players, singers who don't know a lot about music, but are just these natural cats who, for some reason, you listen to them play, and it's like, where does that even come from? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think both. It's both. When you have both, is I think what makes it just the most like special. I think someone who knows they
Yes,
have a
sir.
gift and respects it and honors it, and then still is willing to put in the time to be as great as they can.
Man, that's potentially a dangerous girl or guy right there, boy. I tell you.
100%, 100%, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Yeah. So okay, you progress through the two Eric Gales band records, and everything kind of runs its course. And then things start to change. I mean, you're an adult at this point. You become an adult through the process,
Uh-huh.
and life
Yep.
starts to change. You got new responsibilities, new things going on. You got to grow up in a lot of ways.
Uh-huh.
What did that feel like? Kind of transitioning from the major label days, and you're still a kid, to now you got to worry about, oh, I need to make this much money to take care of myself. I
Uh-huh.
need to, do this. I need to do that. Because I remember what it felt like. It was
Right.
terrifying to me. How did it feel to you?
Yeah, it was terrifying. It was terrifying, and the route that I took began to take a turn into where the introduction of drugs became apparent in my life, and yes, I still had those same concerns, but the escalation of addiction began to be where my only concern was, how am I going to get more money to get more drugs?
Right.
And that it still baffles me, Josh. It really does, man. And I'm gonna try to do this, and I'm gonna try to say this without getting choked up about it. It baffles me that the amount of years that I gave to a stranglehold and carrying a ball and chain that got heavier and heavier by the year, by the month. And I still was able to say, okay, let's drag this chain and ball and go try to get more to make this ball and chain even heavier than what it is. That
Yeah.
lasted for 30 something years.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why I am even here talking to you on this Zoom about that in the past tense. I'm
Mm.
talking to you about it in the past tense. And I
Yeah.
don't, when I know so many friends and people that I admire and am inspired by have lost their lives way before me. So that leads me to, if the cosmos or the gods, if the he, she up there in the world, it has anything to do with it, there has to be something left for me to do,
Yeah.
because I should have been gone a long time ago. You take that part of my story,
Yeah.
extract the whole interview part that we've been talking about
Mm.
playing the guitar. That
Yeah.
alone is enough to take average Jane or John Doe out. Don't give a fuck what you do in life. Now,
Absolutely.
you topple that off with when I just told you, I believe that God gave, or he or she gave something extra to me and my siblings and my family. You put that on top of that. Now, man, there has to be something somewhere bigger than me that is got a binocular view on my life, because otherwise, what reason am I the exception that the hands hadn't been taken off me to go and kill myself? You follow what I'm saying?
I do follow what you're saying, and
That's
that's a
deep.
heavy way
It's
to think
deep,
of
man.
it. That's a heavy way to think of it, as why did I make it? You know what I mean? Because as an
Man.
outsider, I'm just so happy you did, man. I'm just so happy where you are makes me so happy, because I mean, I've seen, we're not best bros or whatever, but I've known you long enough and seen, I never saw you at the bottom. You know what I mean? But I know
Uh-huh.
what that's like. I know people who have been at
Yeah.
the bottom. I've been around them, and to see where you are now makes me so happy. But it was interesting to me that you said, when you think about the amount of years that you gave to that part of your life, do you think about that sometimes, about just the years that you, I don't want to say wasted, because you made music, you did things, but like, what you could have done, I guess.
I'm gonna tell you something. I think in everything I do, the amount of passion and emotion that I put in it too is a direct derivative of why I play even harder. And the tears come out when I play, because I think about, am I making up for, the time, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think
Yeah.
about how much of a struggle that I put myself through and all of that pain. I tell everybody, man, for me to give you guys smiles on your faces every night as an audience, it's a hefty amount of pain that I have to take myself through
Yeah.
every show, every 90 plus minutes. There
Mhm.
is an extreme amount of pain that I take myself through for the joy to happen on your face. And
Yeah.
so it helps me to remember everything that I've been through. And so I play harder and I cry about it. And the tears from what I did to damage myself begin to come to joy of how,
Yeah.
I am still here and I got something. And I thought, Josh, I thought that playing the guitar was the epicenter of the story of my life. And
Mhm.
it isn't. It's a
Yeah.
byproduct.
Right.
It really is a byproduct. My story of my life is what I've been through and
Yeah.
how I'm here to play about it. You know what I mean? All
Yeah.
these years I thought, man, I'm here to play guitar. Yeah, it's a symptom. It's a byproduct of the shit that you done took yourself through. Now you have no idea that is all a bigger picture for why you done been through all this. And
Yes.
because that in itself is the inspiration that I want people to get from why this guy got tears coming out of his eyes while he's playing. Is because if
Yeah.
you don't know his story, you need to find out, because it goes hand in hand why this guy has all of this and all of these interchanging parts and
Yeah.
everything. And now within this past year, man, I got shows with my wife and my team in about 2 weeks down in Florida. We got 4 shows and my wife made a post. Man, we was just reminiscing off of a couple of past shows and how the emotion was so intense and the spirit was in there.
Yeah.
She said, and she made a damn good point. I don't know what the hell we gonna do in a couple of weeks. I might need an
Yeah.
exorcism or something.
Yeah. You might be overcome. Yeah. Plus, it's gonna feel so alien, like to play a
It
gig
will.
in front of it. It's such a weird
It will.
feeling. Yeah.
It will, man. It will.
Man.
But I believe after that passes, though, then I'm gonna feel like right back at home again. You know what
Oh,
I
for
mean?
sure. For sure.
It's just we all are here along for this terrible ride that we all have had to come to over
Yeah.
the past year and some change, right about year now, almost. March
Yeah.
15th was the last gig I did.
Hmm.
And, it just seems like it's been even longer than that. And the one thing that this pandemic has done, it has opened up the mindset for other avenues of things and creativity to
Sure.
be explored that we didn't think we'd have to ever wind up doing or even thought about, period.
Oh yeah. Yeah. 100%.
You know,
100%.
so it's
Yeah.
beautiful for that. But, for all the death and the famine and everything, man, and like, again, we were victims of this, um, epidemic, man. And
Yeah.
again, it's just, it's how is it that me, you, and my wife are still here to have this conversation when over 500,000 people that had it lost
Yeah.
their lives? You follow what I'm saying? So I'm just
Yeah.
thankful, bro. I'm really thankful.
No, you're right. I mean, I'm thankful too. I literally just had it, and yeah, it was. I mean, it's no joke. I mean, I'm thankful that I'm young-ish enough that maybe that
Yeah,
that was a big factor, obviously, you know. But just when you get through anything like that, you're thankful, and I mean, that's
yeah,
a resounding thing to take away from everything you just said. Is the joy that I see? Yes, I see the pain when you play and the emotion, but like the joy at the end from like
man.
like I can see how much you appreciate where you are now, how much you even just appreciate playing guitar, like
Yeah,
and
man.
how, because it is the greatest. It's so great, it's so much fun, and I
Yeah.
see that in you. And I was watching some old Stevie bootlegs because I've been digitizing a bunch of my VHS tapes during this break because we got so
Ah,
much free time, so whatever.
you ain't kidding.
I put this one tape in, and it was him and Chris in an interview on some local TV station at a gig somewhere, but it
Uh-huh.
was like literally a couple weeks before Stevie died. And the interviewer ends the interview by saying to Stevie and Chris, "Man, what's the best thing that could happen for you guys in your career? Like, what's the next step for Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble?" And they both, like in concert, said, "Just keep going," because he was, they just cleaned up and he was smiling and so happy. And that's what it feels like
Right.
now. It's just like everything is gravy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I agree, man. I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
That being
I
said,
agree.
though, that being said, I think you're about to go on the next step. And it's been a slow climb. I've seen it little by little, step by step, that you've been building this thing from scratch. And let's talk about the new record a little bit. First off,
Yeah.
I'm super proud of what you did on this album, and I can't wait for people to hear it. Like, I cannot wait for people to hear the record. And I think it is gonna keep you going the right direction, which is where you deserve to be. But man, it was an interesting process making this record because, you know, we all had a plan kind of coming in. And you came out, you and LaDonna came out here, and we got together at the studio. And it was this plan versus this plan versus this plan. Then we changed that plan. And we ended up somewhere better than I thought it was going to be from the beginning.
I agree. I agree. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. How was the process for you?
The process was it was heavily emotional, the whole process, you know. Kind of when we even began the whole process with some, you know, some things, you know, coming out there and us, me, you, and Joe having the chance to get together, man. It was on the heels of a day prior after that what happened to George Floyd. And
it was,
you know,
right then. It was like the day after.
It was right then, man. And you know, I gotta say, man, it fueled a conversation that, you know, began to be the ground hub for very strong things that was able to be gotten across and said and spoke and sang and talked about, and things that are very and has been very near and dear to me, that, you know, were helped to be saw and helped pulled out from two white men. Let's just call it what it is. Two white men through my eyes. And that was that. I want you to know that there was a cohesiveness that is more powerful than the world. You would have to have been a fly on the wall to understand, especially with the division that had sank in so tough that we are yet and still dealing with. There's some progress being made, but it's something still there. But we have a platform of music that is one of the most powerful platforms that you can ever have. So with the main topic of this division and all this, there was an underlying message that I was determined to make happen, that here is a great example of a black and a white man coming together to make something that the whole world can relate to. And that's an underlying thing that we didn't all, I want the world to know, we didn't all come in your studio and was like agreeing on everything. Like, I don't think that the record would have went that way if I had yes people in there, you know, like, you know, okay, the world knows I can play, you know, and that is, you know, this and this and that. But where we at, it ain't about that. It's like, dude, we need to make this the pinnacle record. And the songs, we know the world know you can play. Let's let the world know that you can sing your ass off too. You know what I mean? Let's get these melodies and let's talk. Let's get down. Let's peel the onion back and let's just make. So, you know, we pushed and pulled and all of that, and you know, it was some. I appreciate all them awesome times of everything that wound up making Crown be what it is, and you know, I'm grateful, man, and I, you know, I don't say this is the end. I'm gonna call fucking BS production. and shit, let's try this shit again. You know, so I thank y'all for help bringing, you know, more things out of me that, you know, I knew that were there, and you guys helped do it.
Well, I'll just say, you know, from my point of view, you know, I'm not going to speak for Joe, but I know selfishly things I wanted to hear from you, for most of them, you know, things I've been waiting to hear from you, just musically, and then things that once we started working, I think you'll notice. I mean, obviously, I'm kind of no nonsense. You know what I mean? I just like to work and do the job, and if it's not good enough, it's not good enough. You know what I mean? All I want is to make the best thing I could possibly make on all fronts. So what was important was that there was no throwaway on this record. There was nothing that wasn't thought and given its proper respect and intent. So the songs were first, had to have the proper amount of respect and intent for what was going on, the message that you wanted to say, and the things that needed to be said. And so that was first. Then it's the, you know, the orchestration and the band and the production style. And then, this is the singing. You know what I mean? We worked hard on all of that to make this record
Worked
the
hard, man.
best it could
We
possibly
did.
be, and that's why I can't wait for people to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, and we did it through fucking us going through COVID. You know, death. You know, the finger being ate off a little bit. You know what
That's
I mean?
right.
And dude. I mean, people need to know the backstory. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't just grazed through. We fought for what happened. You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely.
many a days there wasn't a dry eye in that studio. You know what I mean? It
Yes.
just was some intense passion and emotion that permeated through Ocean Way and Sound Emporium, you know, with all parties involved, that, you know, we went to work hard, man. And, you know, I think, you know, the world, I believe the world can hear that, will hear that, you know, when they hear the new record.
I think they'll hear they'll hear the amount of effort that we put in and passion into the project on all fronts. And let me just end the talk of the record with this last point. I know we're talking about songs and melody and production and all that, but he does play his fucking ass off on this record. So don't worry about it. There is no lack of guitar on this record.
Not at all. You sure ain't kidding, man. No, not at all, man.
All right, man. Let's jump into the 10 questions.
Okay.
All right. When you first started picking up that guitar, right, 4 years old, do you remember the first thing that either you learned by ear or someone showed you or you figured out that kind of was like, I can't believe I just figured this out? Like a little part of a song or a lick or something, you know, that just set the hook. Like, man, there's no going back after this.
Albert King. You know, a Laundromat Blues, Overall Junction, all that, you know, Scuttle Bucket, you know what I mean? I mean, dude, just, you know, Zap, you know, just all, man, there's several different things. I say, yo, man, are you kidding me? Dragonfly, Frank, you know, Bridge of Sighs, all of this. I'm like, man, no way. And I knew it was, you know, and this was all being introduced to me at a very, very early age, man, you know, and, you know, some Georgia by Jerry Reed, you know, and
sure, all right.
Yeah, come on, man. Yeah. I'm going way back now.
Yeah, I like it. Well, do you remember the first solo you learned note for note by anybody? Do you remember doing that?
Overall Junction.
Overall Junction was the first one.
It was Albert King. The whole thing, front to back. Wasn't no joking around. If he got off key, I had to do that the same too.
Yeah, and then you got Ice Cream and a Burger.
Yes, sir. That's it.
What's the first thing you play every time you pick up a guitar now? Do your hands just go somewhere on autopilot? Is this something without consciously thinking that always kind of comes out first?
A major second.
Okay.
That chord, that beautiful chord. And I may not be labeling it right, but this chord.
Yeah. Add 9. Yeah.
That chord right there, that sets it off right there. And then I immediately go, you know, then back to it. So somewhere I go to that chord and that's it. That sends it off. I'm gone at that point.
Yeah. Okay, so this may be related to that, but number 4 is what key, style, groove, song kind of lives in there most of the time when you're not playing or listening to something? Like if you're cooking eggs or you're just walking around. For me, I hear a shuffle most of the time, unless I'm coming off of work and I've been working on something else. I'm hearing something swinging, you know what I mean? And I'm blowing over the top of it. Do you have something that just lives in there a lot of the time?
That's a really good question, man. And man, it's so many, man. Yeah. It could be 40 Mile Town. You know, I'm a harmonic, melodic, beautiful, you know, that type of beautiful thing. You know what I mean? And it all depends on what mood I'm in. It could be just like you, a banging shuffle. You know what I mean? It could be, you know, it could be something strong, something, you know, grungy. You know what I mean? It just
Sure,
Peace
sure.
in Mississippi or something about
Yeah.
it could be some Sean Lane or something, man. It just all depends. You know what I mean? Ain't no tell.
Okay, so on the B side of that, then when you let's say a piece of music comes on you've never heard before, right? You're in the car, or you're somewhere, and a piece of music comes on you never heard it before. What's the first thing you normally take stock of? Is it the groove? Is it the melody? What's the first thing you start hearing? What you would play over the top of it? You know, like where
That
does your
too
brain normally
is
go?
my brain normally goes to the groove. And generally it's the beat.
Mm,
Cause I'm a drummer, so I'm hearing, I'm hearing all that type of, you know
yeah.
what I'm saying? That's what's getting me. Then I'm hearing the bass line and how all that coincides with each other.
Mm,
And then I'm hearing how the harmonies of the lyrics. The lyrics are the last thing that I listen to.
mm,
I'm listening at the harmonies that may coincide in the lyrics, but the lyrics and what the song talking about will be the final thing that
yeah.
I listen to. And it's been that way all my life.
Mm,
It's the
mm,
music first, and then you know
yeah.
that's it. Hey, I'm backwards anyway, so hey.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Number 5. When did you feel like you started to transition to having your voice on the guitar? Because when we start really young, and like you said, you were learning things note for note, note for
True.
note, and
Yeah.
we become obsessed with guys. So it's like we all have the periods of this is my guy, this is what I'm listening to. Was there clear moments of like, oh, I just stumbled on something. I'm gonna go further that way. That sounds like me. Do you remember moments like that?
Yeah, I do. But in my case, there's several different parameters of that I feel that,
Sure.
you know what I'm saying? But I would really, really say that Picture of a Thousand Faces, like God only knows, you know what I mean? When,
Uh huh.
coming into, I'm like, man, this is an angel of the night, this where like there's a blistering side, and then there's a like God only knows type of, side that
Hmm.
was where I knew that I was going to be a combination. Don't ask me to pick between whether I like the blistering side,
Yeah.
because it's passion in that, or the beautiful side, because it was a combination of them both. When those began to come together, then I was like, yeah, this me right here.
You know what? It's funny you say that. When I bought those two records when they first came out, it did feel like on the second record you started to sound more like, I wasn't hearing like, oh, that's a Stevie thing and that's an Eric Johnson. It was like this. No, this sounds like Eric. And I asked you in the studio last time I saw you about Temple of
You did.
Deliverance solo that starts with that kind of
Exactly.
all along the Watchtower type lick.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Ooh-da-da-da,
sir.
ba-da-da. But that
Right,
solo
right, right.
to me, it does kind of sound like the beginnings of like the Eric Gales thing that we know and love now, which now has so much more to it. Don't get me wrong, but I can kind of hear
Yeah,
what you're
yeah.
saying. Yeah,
Yep, I agree. That's a very good way of putting it. I agree.
nice, man. All right, number 6. What do you consider your biggest weakness on the guitar?
Biggest weakness. You.
Oh, come on, man.
Truth.
No, like what's
Truth.
something that makes you sweat? Anything?
You. You.
Ah, like what makes me
Dude. I'm
sweat
telling
is
you.
if I have to play finger picked acoustic, like not hybrid pick, but like James Taylor, like intricate acoustic
Yeah.
guitar. That's kryptonite to
Yeah.
me.
True. Yeah. If I have to uh, pick every note, you know, as opposed to hybrid, if that was the case. But like, really though, dude, like, I'm afraid to step on the stage with you, man. I'm just
Ah,
saying.
come
So
on,
my
man.
answer is you. We've done it quite a few times, and the
Sure we
one
have.
time that I felt like I shown up held my own was when I sat in with you at the baked potato. We played our
Yeah,
ass off that night.
that's a good video, man. I hadn't seen it in a while, and somebody tagged me in it, and I was like, man, we were having fun.
Yeah, we played our ass off that night. We did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. I like when we play together because you can hear all the shared influences that we both have, obviously. We've listened to so
All
much
of
of
them.
the same
Hey,
shit, but yet we sound
right.
so different.
Yeah, we do. I like it a
Yeah,
lot. I like it a
yeah,
lot. I
yeah.
learn something every time in
Likewise,
my
every
head,
time
I'm
I'm
like,
around you.
okay, after the show, in my head, I'm like, okay, he's gonna have to show me that.
dude, every time I hear you play, that's how I feel. All right, number 7. Who's a huge influence
Yep.
on your guitar playing that people would be really surprised to hear?
Man, that would be surprised to hear. Wow. On guitar? Yeah,
It doesn't have
guitar.
to be a guitar player, but they have to have influence on your playing. Like who's influenced your playing, and it would be really surprising to hear that they're a big influence on your playing.
Man, that's a lot of gospel people that fit that criteria.
Mm,
Uh, you know, I want to say D'Angelo.
okay, yeah.
Believe it or not, it's just that whole.
I believe
I'm
it.
going
Yeah.
to say John Mayer. Believe it or not, is one of those. You know what I mean? That people would be surprised to hear. Chet Atkins, Jerry
Yeah.
Reed. Danny
Yeah.
Gatton, Johnny
Yeah.
Hyland. That
Yeah.
whole style is, the Nashville cats. You know what I mean? All them
Sure.
boy. I just having a conversation about all them pound for pound. Nashville got some of the baddest motherfuckers ever.
Sure. Absolutely. Without
No joke.
question. Yeah.
Doyle Dykes and Red Volker and Volker and all them sort of dudes is killing, man. Like,
Oh yeah.
yo,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you listen to Chet a lot?
I did a whole lot as I was young.
Yeah.
When I was young, I listened to a whole lot of Chet. But I compile Chet, Jerry, Albert Lee, Roy Clark, all them in the, you know, kind of in the same bag. You know what I mean?
Did
And
Eugene
they
like that
all,
stuff?
yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Showing up. Yeah,
Oh,
man.
that's cool, man. And there's something to be said for too the fact that you came into the world in Memphis. You know what I mean? The deepness of the amount of music that's come out of that place, and also the diversity of music that has come from that
Right.
city is pretty staggering.
Yeah.
Actually, it
Yeah,
you
no,
know
I agree. A whole
yeah,
lot of it, man. A whole lot.
yeah. Wow. All right, that's a good one. Number 8. In a gig situation, would you rather have a great guitar and a shitty amp, or the other way around? A great amp and a
A
bad
great
guitar.
guitar and a great guitar and a shitty amp.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I'm the opposite of you on this one. I got to have a decent amp. I'll muscle through the guitar, but if I don't have some kind of amp that gives me a tone that's close to what I like, I'm screwed.
So I'm gonna tell you why I say that is because I made this is just my perspective on it. If I got a shitty amp, then I just have to modify my hands more to be the tone.
Mm.
Because to me, 95% of the guitar and the amp is who playing.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So with that being said, I'll just adjust on the fly with what I can do to try to, offset where the lack is coming in from. So, again, if I had to, I'd take a great amp and a shitty guitar and muscle through it. I
Yeah.
would, but
Yeah.
it just would seem better to have a guitar that plays like butter. You know what I mean? And figure out the amp later. So,
But if you had to do your gig and you had your guitar, your Magneto guitar, and your pedals, and you got there and the amp was a JC 120, you'd be more comfortable with that than if someone gave you a Squire, but you had your pedal board and your amps.
what would I do?
Which one would you'd be more comfortable the other way around with your guitar, your pedals, but a JC 120 as opposed to Squire Strat and your amp and pedals?
I'd take a Squire and my amp.
Okay, see there you go. That's what I'm saying.
That's leaning on the side of what you said. So I guess you got a point.
Yeah, because I was thinking about this yesterday. The amount of gigs in our lives that we play with amps that are not ours, that we don't own. It could be more. I could have played more gigs in my life with amps I don't own as opposed to amps I do own. You know what I mean?
I agree. That's a very, very good point. Where it's I have to per capita. You're right, but I would like to say that it has weighed more on the side of now. With the company that I have, DV Mark and my signature amp, that
Yeah.
they are wonderful. I have to give a shout out to them. Marco over at Mark Bass, and they make sure that my gear is where I needed to be. So, now I'm having the opportunity, but again, everybody's not afforded that luxury to,
Yeah.
just put a phone call and they have it flown in or whatever, at their cost.
Yeah.
And, I don't have to worry about it. But I do agree with you, man. Generally as a Fender twin that ain't working all good,
Yeah.
what I'm
Exactly.
saying? Not
Yeah.
all the knobs ain't working,
Yeah.
tubes all loose.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, that's the hundreds of times that's happened. It's like
Yeah.
bad speakers, bad amp, or some Marshall
Yep.
from the 2000s with no reverb and a closed back
Oh
cabinet, and
man,
yeah, just
dude,
yeah,
no reverb, no bottom end, no
yeah,
nothing. Like,
yeah,
dude,
yeah. That's
yeah.
that's
Two,
that's my biggest struggle. When I get stuck with that, I know I'll have a better gig if the amp is okay than vice versa. So that's why
right.
I come
I
from
got
that point.
you. I got you. I see
All
what you
right,
mean. Yeah.
number 9. What I mean, we may have already touched on the answer to this, but what keeps you motivated to continue just being a better guitar player? Because I keep hearing growth in your playing and new stuff coming. What keeps you pushing on Because you're already a bad motherfucker and everybody knows that. But we all know guys who stop growing. You know what I mean? And they hit a
Yeah.
spot, and then this is
Yeah.
what they sound like. I've never heard that out of you, and I respect that. What keeps you pushing?
Hearing you. I mean, you might think I'm joking when I say that, but like, dude, like you and the Kirk Fletchers and Joes and what I mean, and the Derek
Yeah,
Truxes and Doyle Bramhalls and Robert Randolphs and
yeah,
I'll get and Eric Johnson. I'll get inspired by something that I'll hear, and that'll send me into my shed to go and
mm,
just go to plucking, which will in turn turn into, wow, I just figured out something that I ain't been doing. Let me incorporate this, and that's
yeah,
how the evolution of it happens, is by first that fire being sparked by, man, I just heard, goddamn it, and I done got inspired like a motherfucker. And
yeah.
that's how it works.
That feeling is the best. I hope it never goes away. You know what I
Me
mean?
too, man. Me
I just
too.
hope that continue because it's my favorite thing. There's nothing better than getting inspired, working on something, getting it, and then figuring out a way to make it part of your shit. It's so
Absolutely.
great.
That's it
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Number 10. You got a 5-year plan, man? Where you want to be in 5 years? Do you have specific goals? Are you that guy who makes specific goals? Or is it more just
I, I
go by the seat
I
of your pants?
haven't been before now. I just, go in it, and what comes, I'm surprised. But like, I do kind of have a 5-year plan. uh, you know, I want to at least visit. I at least want to be in a seat at the Grammys within the next 5 years, and I think that may happen within the next two
I
uh,
hope so.
with this new record.
I
I
hope so.
got stuff. I got stuff that's involving TV. I want to have this TV show that I'm about to do off the ground. It's a guitar competition show. I can't talk a whole lot about it, but it's going to be crazy.
Nice.
It's going to be crazy. A movie. Have this movie about my life uh, done within the next 2 years. The script is already written for it. Uh, and just have a whole nother, just see a whole side of life that I even saw, you
Hmm.
know, just as a regular human being. And I want my gift to afford me that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Say, having my gift afford me to see another side of life that I haven't had, that has been waiting on me the whole time. You know what I mean? I could have been, but due to some setbacks,
Yeah.
now let me and let me enjoy my plate at the table and my time to eat for a minute. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And enjoy my crown.
Man, it's funny you say. I was thinking about this the other day. As musicians, we don't think a lot of, especially as much as we travel. A vacation is not like a thing that we do. You know what I mean? Like I've never
Dude,
taken a real vacation in my whole life because I've been everywhere.
none, none.
But when I
But you
look at
but
my
you know what
friends,
happened though?
uh,
What happened is I got a wife that spoke up about, what, we work hard and long, and you know what, man, we should take a vacation. And again, we've been married almost 9 years and never had a honeymoon. We
yeah,
never had a honeymoon.
yeah,
So we planned it for last year, but then the pandemic happened. And
yeah,
then I'm like, so that's crazy that you speak about vacations because the wife was like, babe, you know what? We go hard in the paint out here. Let's make sure we take a vacation. And okay, yeah, going on a cruise and getting paid for it and such, that's great, but it's not the same as a
No.
vacation where you going somewhere where hopefully don't nobody know who the hell you are, and
Yeah.
we just enjoying each other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'd hate it though. I might get there and be like, this is boring as
Try
hell.
it out, bro. Try. You know what? Try it out. Don't take no guitar or nothing, and just go see some things in life, because it's some things out there that does bring you happiness other than guitar.
Sure.
It is.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
Dude, well, that's it. We made the end of the 10 questions. So
Oh
thank you
man,
for the
thank you,
rulers.
man.
If you're not a ruler, please sign up, become a ruler, or at least subscribe to my channel. There'll be links to all things Eric Gales in the body of this video. So please support this man and his wife and the music that they're making and the great things they're doing. Like I said, be on the lookout for the new record because we're super proud of it. Dude, thank you so much for doing this and taking the time out of your day.
Thank you, man. Thank you, man. When we get off this call, you make sure you send me the link to when this is going to air and
100%.
everything. And Josh, pound for pound, you one of the baddest dudes I know, man. And you know, I am very grateful that our paths in life has crossed each other, and I consider you, you know, close family to me till the end. And
Likewise,
and I'll
man.
always be that way. And yeah, man, you bro. Don't be surprised I hit you up for one of them online courses to learn a couple things from you. You know, don't tell nobody. And
Oh,
thank you,
man.
man. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you, man. I love you, man.
Yeah, likewise. I love you too, man. I tell LaDonna you said hey.
Please do. Please do. All right,
Yes,
Eric.
sir. Okay, man. Peace.
All right.